Welcome to the WordyGirl Entertainment Podcast. I am your writer-in-chief, Rosalind Jackson. I am a lover of words, and that love led me to a passion for writing. And what's the next best thing to writing? Talking about writing. So kick back and join me for mind-blowing chats about writing, covering everything from screenplays to novels to poetry, from nonfiction books to songwriting, and much more. Theresa Broadnax is a Midwest native who has become a premier hairstylist and costume designer in the entertainment industry. After 10 years of owning Studio Design Group, a salon and image consulting business in downtown Columbus, Ohio, and serving as creative director on multiple media projects at Ozone Studios, Ms. Broadnax expanded her business objective by using her marketing skills to secure projects in Hollywood and worldwide. Theresa has taken on such roles as department head, creative director, and designer on television and film projects such as Free Meek for Amazon Prime, 20s for BET, along with national commercials for Nike, Samsung, and Under Armour, to name a few. But it was her work as hairstylist on the Tyra Banks show for the CW and as wardrobe designer on the #1 iconic daytime drama, The Young and the Restless, that earned her 2 Emmy Awards. Merging her creative and business skills, Theresa created House of Broadnax, the HOB brand, where she created impressive looks for a host of celebrities such as Colin Kaepernick, Esai Morales, Ron Rieko Lee, Jesse Metcalf, Anna Marie Horsford, and former President George W. Bush. She's also designer and creative director of the HOB brand premium leather handbag line, a #1 best-selling author, and philanthropist. Welcome to the WordyGirl Entertainment Podcast. We are speaking with Theresa Broadnax. Thank you for doing this and welcome.
Hello, thank you. I'm excited to have a conversation.
Yes. So tell us how you got your start in hairstyling and costume design for television.
Well, as far as television, I'll go back a little bit. Just a quick. I've been in a hairstylist or cosmetologist, however you want to. If you're old school, you may even say hairdresser. Like 30 years ago, since 1990. And in my, originally from Columbus, Ohio. So, of course, originally from Ohio. And I owned a salon there for 10 years, which was Studio 209 Hair Salon, which was under my umbrella corporation of Studio Design Group. And just kind of getting into a little bit of the medium there, because of course in Columbus, Ohio, it's not LA, so you're not going to get that, like you would get the industry, there. But I kind of tapped into what I could, which, I sought out a couple of production companies that worked on like national commercials and like runway shows, because I like participated in a Victoria's Secret runway show, even before it was really like the huge, phenomenon that it has, become.
Oh, wow.
And because it kind of originated, the owner actually, which I'm sure he had at several homes, but one of his main homes was in New Albany, Ohio, which was like a suburb from, and so it kind of started from there. And then like once I tapped into the television and film part of it, it kind of sparked another creative gene in me. And I said, I was very fascinated about what it took to put together something, a show or a movie at that point. Because I had, especially, once I had done like smaller things like commercials and things like that. A couple of music videos. And so I knew after I, knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I said, well, where do I need to be? And I'm the kind of person that if I set out to do something, I have a roadmap to what I need to do to get there. And then I just kind of map it out and I follow it until I accomplish what I've set out to accomplish. So that's kind of where it started. And then I started seeking out projects, outside of Columbus, but eventually into LA as well. And I got a project out here, and I didn't all the way move and make my LA my residence probably until like a year. I had been here working out here for a year and a half. I went back and forth for like the first couple of years because I had a salon, and I wasn't willing to give. And I had a pretty nice lifestyle in Columbus, Ohio. Economically, Ohio's a lot different to survive in than Los Angeles, California as a whole. So I didn't want to give all that up until I knew that the West Coast was somewhere that I wanted to be permanently. So I kind of went back and forth and then I had to realize, like, okay, you gotta, you're comfortable, but you're not that comfortable to be bi-coastal. So figure it out.
Right. So was the studio design group, was that a part of your salon, or was that a separate company?
It was basically a part of it. It was basically the umbrella, company. And because I had different facets, kind of like what I have now with House of Broadnax HOB brand. Okay. And because I had the salon, and I also acquired, bidded for a contract I had, because before I got into, I'm back up a little bit again, but before I got into the beauty and fashion industry, I actually worked in the corporate world for like 15 years. Oh, okay. And at different places in banking and, executive, assistant, like things like that. And then I worked for the state of Ohio taxation department for 10 years. And not that I really wanted to do that, but at the time I was a young single mother. I had the skills to, the job came easy for me. I felt like at that time it was the best thing for me to do for my family. But that's why when going into it, I said, I'm going to take this job, but I don't want to retire from here. So I'm only going to do 10 years. Okay. I had put a plan in my head, like, you're going to do this for 10 years. At that point, I felt like my children would be at a really good age that I could, and hopefully I was at a good financial position where I could start transitioning into something creative. Now, at that time, I wasn't sure which avenue I was going, but I knew that I was going to do something creative. I knew that I didn't want to sit in a cubicle behind an office and talk about, taxes and, and all that kind of stuff all day with people. I didn't want to do that for 35 years. I knew that going in, but it was great. I was young at the time, and I was really making really good money, awesome benefits, for my family. So it worked out, and I stuck to my plan. I did 10 years. In between that time, I kind of was, trying to figure out, okay, well, because I knew I had kind of an interest in hair, but I also had an interest in fashion, because I had a few fashion designer friends as well, growing up, who went into fashion design. So I have a lot of artist friends. So I've always been around, and I'm like that girl who likes to go to the gallery and see art or whatever. So that's, and I've taught art classes for after school programs to children and things like that. So I knew creatively, it was just a matter of me trying to figure out exactly what lane I wanted to start off in, and to position myself where it would be good for me to transition and not be so hard, because I feel like I'm a true believer. If you plan things out, you make the transition. It makes the transition a lot smoother.
Right. Now, that was leading into my next question, was what drew you into hairstyling and costume design?
Well, the hairstyling was first, originally the hairstyling did come first. And I actually got pushed, I think, that way, because at that time I had my ex was in my life, and he always it was one thing he just kept saying, you should do, because I was really the girl who, like, my daughter wore braids growing up. I didn't do the relax or anything with my daughter. She always wore like the braids with the beads. And then as she got older, of course, you just do, the appropriate style for the age. And I braided a lot of my girlfriends, children's hair. And I was kind of playing around with it, but I wasn't, I was still kind of on the fence if I wanted to, kind of dive in to do it, because it was a big difference from what I had been doing. And, but he just kept saying, he was like, no, that's what you should, he's like, you're good at it. You really, and so I said, okay, to get a taste of the beauty world, I looked into it and I said, I'm gonna become a nail tech, but I was only a nail tech for like six months to a year, not that long. But what it did, because I still had to work my 40-hour a week job. So I said, well, I'm going to become a nail tech because it's only going to take me a few months, 3 or 4 months for me to do that. And then I can, maybe find a salon that's convenient to, everything else going on in my life, that I can maybe go and do 1 or 2 days, like maybe a Saturday or, a couple of hours in the evening to kind of give me the salon feel. Because I know me, if I put myself into a situation, I'll know right off if it's something that I really want to do, if I'm kind of feeling the energy of it. But well, as soon as I did that and became the nail tech, and I, to my first, couple of days there, and I was like, yeah, this is really what I should be doing. So then I just continued my education because I got credited for my hours I had already put in to do the nail tech. So I just continued my education and just finished my cosmetology license. And then 2 years after I think I graduated in 1990. Yeah, in 1990, I resigned in I think from the state in 92 and opened up, and opened up my own salon because I was working at a salon, but I didn't really leave the salon until the state until I was actually ready to open up my own salon.
Okay.
So that's how that kind of came about. And then the studio design group, like I said, was the umbrella of the salon itself was named Studio 209 Hair Salon because my address was 209 South High Street. So I stuck the address in the name so people would never forget where it was.
Oh, okay. That's clever. That's clever.
I try to be a little clever to when I'm kind of design, because a lot of like my things like logos and different things I write out and things that got to do with my brand, I'm actually creating myself. So I just try to be, I thought it was kind of clever to that way. It's easy to remember where I'm also located because it's in the name.
Right. And what other kind of things did you do under the studio design group?
Like I was beginning to say before, I bidded for and inquired a state contract that started off, I had it for like 7 years, and it started off where they was looking for someone to come up to the youth correctional facility like once a week to facilitate like beauty services for the female, because I was mainly working with the females, the young youth to come up and talk to them about hygiene and beauty, and for the ones that were getting emancipated out, to even give them like a whole like look to and the skills that they and what the look that they needed for like a job interview. So I bidded for it and obtained that. And then once I got into the program and kind of seen how the facility ran and got to know what else was going on, I presented to the superintendent. I said, well, I'm coming up here and I'm doing these services for the young ladies so they can interview. I said, but it comes to my attention that they're also not getting the like basic skill sets that the young ladies needed to acquire a job. One part of their probation is you guys are having them, they have to get a job, but you're not actually teaching them how to get it. They
Right.
need to more than just the outside appearance is good, is important too.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to know how to speak and how to answer questions and how what to do in an interview. They need to know how to make a basic resume
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And they were, yes. And so how can you make that part of their probation if you're not really teaching them to do it? Because
Right.
these are kids, and some of the young ladies had been in there, since they were like 12 or 13,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like 17, 18, getting ready to be. And I'm like, I said, it's almost, to me, I looked at it like, you got a system kind of like the system is now that's broken. You're putting something on them that you're not really teaching them to do. You're taking them in as kids,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're letting them out as an adults, but you haven't taught them to gain what you're asking them to get, which inevitably can cause them to come back in here because then
Right.
they're in violation of their probation. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
so that doesn't make sense to me. So with that said, I was able to get them to add on to my contract, and I started also giving them like basic business courses.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, how to set up a basic resume and questions to ask, and your to go along with your appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And how you should arrive in your appearance of a interview as well.
Oh wow.
So that was a part of like the studio design group,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like my corporation had the contract with
Mm-hmm.
the state.
Oh, okay. That's a
So
wonderful
it was like
service.
so it was kind of under the same umbrella but separate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's an amazing service to provide because it's much needed. But
Yes.
yeah. And I think it's so amazing that you have not one but two Emmy Awards. What
Yes,
shows
I've
did
been
you
blessed.
what shows did you work on for them?
My very first Emmy I received working with the amazing, fabulous Tyra Banks
Oh wow.
on her talk show,
Mm-hmm.
and which I believe it's I'm looking 2005.
Okay.
2000, I think that was 2005, 2006 year for her syndicated show,
Mm-hmm.
for hair for that show. And then my second Emmy is for costume design for outstanding costume design for the number one hits daytime drama, The Young and the Restless.
Oh wow.
So I was, when I won that one, and I think I won that one in 2018. I think that was more recent. That was more
Okay.
in the recent years. Like I want to say last year, maybe it was like, no, it was 2018, I believe. Or it might have been last year. I mean, 2018, 2019 year, because
Mm-hmm.
it usually goes in between like the 2 years.
Okay.
So yeah, I was very excited because I've been working in the industry as a hairstylist longer,
Mm-hmm.
but I actually have a fashion degree as well.
Okay.
So when I really I was working at CBS actually on the Tyra Banks show, and I guess the Young and the Restless was seeking a stylist that was could do multicultural hair. So we were actually in the same building. So my name was kind of, I guess, going around the circle to ask or whatever if I was interested to come upon the show. So that's how I actually started coming on to Young and the Restless on a part-time basis, because I was still actually filming Tyra at that time, but she didn't film every day. So around her schedule, I would work on Young and the Restless and help them out. So I really started off doing hair on that show. And
Okay.
then when Tyra ended, like her third year, she I think her second or third year, she ended up moving her production to New York, put it that way. She ended up moving the production to New York. And I still was doing hair on Young and the Restless, but it was just on a part-time basis. So when the costume designer for Young and the Restless at the time found that out, they were like, well, we didn't know that you had a fashion background as well. Or would you be interested in since you're not filming Tyra anymore, helping us in wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
So for a short time, I actually was working in both departments on that show.
Oh,
I would do like a couple of days in hair and maybe 1 or 2 days in wardrobe, which made it really easy because the actors already knew me. They were already comfortable with me. So it really didn't matter. I mean, it was really kind of funny. And a lot of the crew got a kick out of it because they were like, we've never seen that. Maybe hair and makeup sometimes on projects if it's not union, because of course union, you can't do that because it's the same union for hair and makeup.
Mm-hmm.
But for wardrobe, it's a different union. It's local 705s. Hair and makeup is 706. So because people ask me all the time, you can do both. And I said, but they're separate unions. I said, so yeah. So now I can't do makeup on a union show, even though I don't advertise myself as a makeup artist, but I'm capable of doing like, you're some basic beauty makeup. And, because I've had clients who I've gotten ready for events or red carpet and something happened with the makeup artist. So I had to end up doing their makeup as well, their makeup and their hair and sometimes dressing them as well. I'm able to do all three if necessary, but because of the way the union is structured and hair and makeup is one union, I can't do makeup on a union project because I'm listed as hair.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of because people always say that works, but since costume design is separate, it's a whole different union. Is no conflict of interest or anything. So I was really ecstatic because I had been working on that show. So once I was doing both, the costume designer ended up offering me a full-time position as an assistant designer. So I ended up taking that. And because I felt like at that time I was fairly fresh in the industry. That was really my first probably 3 or 4 years of being in Los Angeles. So I was, I'm very hungry. I'm still now always very hungry and pushing myself and things like that. So I was like, yeah, it's a little less, costumes sometimes make a little less money than hair on productions. So, but I felt like it was a full-time position on a long-standing running show. So in the long run, I was going to make plenty of money. I wasn't worried about it, even though it was a little less money than what I would make as a hairstylist. And it gave me a chance to be accomplished as a costumer and, costume in costume design and things like that. So, because I felt like I had got my Emmy for hair. And so I really wanted to kind of plateau the fashion up to that level too. And I said, it would be great if I could get an Emmy in my other medium, which is costume design. And then like a year later, we won. So I was just like, so blessed. So my next thing is an Oscar.
That is the creme de la creme right there.
Exactly.
So what's the process for hairstyling on a show? Like, how are the looks chosen? Is that something that the producers say that, they choose those first and then you just go according to what they do? Or do you get to put your own creative input in it? How does that work?
Well, I mean, I say overall, for the most part, it comes down to like the character, of course, of the script. You're going to read the script, or who usually the department head and maybe the key, depending on how big your team is. But anyway, if you're like running the department, you basically would read the script and the characters, how you create the characters. If you're creating from scratch, of course. You're basically creating, you're getting a feel of the character through the script, but of course you're listening to the producer and whoever's the creative force is behind the storyline. You sit. That's what you have your production meetings and you get a chance to see what the creator's vision is, because you got to take that into account, because this is this is their story, and producers or whoever. And then, of course, the actor, the person that's playing the role, they're playing this role. So, of course, they're going to have their input and their feel of what they want. Then you kind of take all that and you create some of your magic into that, where you're happy with it and everyone else is happy with it. I mean, that's really how you have to do that. You know, it's never really just your thing, you know, unless you're the person in total creative control of the whole look, you know, which is very rare, you know, because even if you do, as the creative force, have that ability, you know, have that, you still, the actor, the person playing the character is always going to have want some input on it. You know what I'm saying? So, so it's always, to me, going to be at least a couple of people.
Right.
Vision that you're going to, but it basically starts from the script and trying to visualize, because you're basically taking the words of the script and bringing it to life by the visual.
Right. Yeah, I've been inside the makeup and hair trailers, and it's like a whole world in there. It basically looks like from the ones I've seen, it looks like a mini salon on wheels.
Absolutely. Whether it's on a trailer or, you know, if you're in a studio, you actually have a room that actually looks like a salon, so to speak. And it's a whole vibe. But I like, you know, I've worked on some really great sets. I've been, very, you know, blessed, and I don't want to say, you know, lucky, but because I feel like with, you know, hard work and determination and you know, some faith and prayer, you know, you can make some things happen.
Right.
I've been blessed that way, and I've worked on with some really, you know, great group of creative groups. You know, I will say, you know, I've had some, for the most part. You know, you always have. I think with any, you know, profession or any career, you know, you're gonna, you know, because life is a challenge, so there's always going to be challenges and different controversies you have to deal with. It's your reaction to them that's important.
Right. And speaking of controversies, like in today's environment, there's been talks of diversity in TV and film as far as the hair and makeup departments. Have you faced any challenges in the field as a Black woman doing hair and makeup?
I wouldn't say necessarily like just directly something like real personal like that, you know, towards me, like directly that I've known of. But, you know, I've seen different things and different biases. And I mean, for overall, my relationship and my experience in the industry has went, you know, really well through the years, but I have been disappointed with a couple of, you know, situations. But I'm the type of person, and I'm not going to sit and really complain about the situation. Once I'm kind of feel like, if I'm unhappy with a situation, or I feel like, okay, it was working at, you know, at first, but now it's not really working for me, or if I feel like I'm underappreciated or not valued, I really won't, because I'm not a complainer. I just set out to remove myself from that situation and put myself in a better situation. Because sitting around complaining about it is not going to really do anything. Now, if I have dealt with something, if I have to deal with something that's like a direct disrespect or, you know, prejudice or some to that, I am definitely that person that will stand up for myself. And, you know, I'm not scared to go toe to toe with anybody when it comes to that, because I'm definitely about equality and being fair. And I mean, we all know it's a lack of diversity in this industry. I don't really like to say, you know, because it's an industry that I do love working in. I will say that, you know, it's provided a very, you know, it's a comfortable lifestyle for me. And I get to do all the things that I like to do creative pretty much at the same time. So it is an industry that I love to work in, but just like any other industry, it all has its biases and issues that I mean, that by just what's going on in the world right now. It's everywhere.
Right.
It's in sports, it's in politics, it's in
Mm-hmm.
corporate world, it's in the television and film industry. It's
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. It's in the jail systems, it's in the police force, it's everywhere.
Right.
Like I said, what are you going to do about it? How are you
Mm-hmm.
going to deal with it? Because sitting around complaining,
Mm-hmm.
that's not helping. Get involved. Like I tell people, even on and I say community work, but the thing is, if you're a community activist and it kind of ties into politics, whether you want it to or not. It's something
Mm-hmm.
they just kind of go together, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I'm like, get involved sometimes in whatever it is you feel like that you're being unfair, and whether it's your job, if there's a union, get involved in a union on your job. If it's
Mm-hmm.
your neighborhood or you being unfair, then get involved in, start at a smaller level. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that people can do at like a small, at a small level. That's just like
Mm-hmm.
right in your neighborhood, like
Right.
right in your vicinity,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people don't think, because all the small things, just like all your small successes will lead up to a bigger success.
Yeah.
Well, that is the same with everything.
Mm-hmm.
All the things that you push forward to, they will make a big success one day. Now, it might
Mm-hmm.
not be from you, but maybe the next generation,
Right.
just like the John Lewis's and Martin Luther King's and, people have done for us,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
you basically like kind of you starting the chain,
Mm-hmm.
of,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, is how you react to things.
Right. And
But
speaking
I
of, oh, I'm
definitely,
sorry. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I said, so I definitely have, because like I said, I was in a situation where I felt like, I had worked for a show for a long time. And even though I was coming to the table with, to be honest, a lot more experience and definitely education wise than a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the successors, of other races had held that position.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, they really are never, they just are probably not going to ever offer me this position.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not even going to really boo. With that said, because I feel like if I know I'm qualified for something
Mm-hmm.
and you wouldn't, and I feel like, or if I've done some things which proven to me that you're not even really even going to consider me for this position, that tells me that it has to be some type of, either you don't appreciate what I'm bringing to the table, or you have some type of prejudice against me,
Mm-hmm.
because you have had other people in this position that don't have fashion degrees,
Mm-hmm.
didn't come to the table with an Emmy, didn't have certain
Right.
things in play that I already had. The only thing that person might have had more to me that is that they had worked on the show a lot longer, but they had
Mm-hmm.
never worked on another show. But I've worked in every medium. I've done
Mm-hmm.
national commercials. I've done music videos. I've done daytime TV. I've done talk shows. I've done feature films. Like, I've worked in pretty much every medium,
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel like if I know what I'm bringing to the table, and knowing that this company would never offer me that top position um, for that. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, I just need to remove myself from being here, because that tells me they undervalue who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need to be here anymore. That's the way I chalked it up. So I
Mm-hmm.
just set myself up to ease on out when it was on my terms. See,
Mm-hmm.
what I tell people is like, don't get angry about stuff. Not unless you. I mean, I can see if it's like something that's like a total disrespect, like boom
Mm-hmm.
in your face. But don't get so upset and walk away of something from something that is actually, you know, maybe 90% a good thing. Like, you are benefiting from it.
Uh-huh.
Remove yourself from it, but on your own terms. So that's what I kind of do. I just try to,
Right.
I do keep doing what I'm doing. And then when I'm ready to exit, that's when I
Mm-hmm.
exit,
Right.
because like I said, it was, because other than that, my experience on the show was great. Cast and crew couldn't be better. I'm still very much friends with, everybody on this particular production that I'm speaking of. And, but like I said, it really, I just looked at it like, I don't need to complain about it. The show was, it's been great for me over the years. But with me feeling this way about this, it's just that my season's ended here, which was fine for me because I usually try to do something. I like to say something, kind of big or grand every decade, every 10 years. And I didn't seek out to do that. But when I look back at my life a little bit, I realized that every 10 years, I've kind of made a major move. Like I stayed at this, working with the government for 10 years. I resigned from there and became an entrepreneur, opened up my own salon, had my own salon for 10 years and then moved to Los Angeles. And then, I was on that show a little longer than the 10 years, but I said, it's about time and that's what made me say, you know what, this is why I'm feeling this way because my 10 years has passed and it's time for me to make a move, So I kind of chuckled to myself about it and was like, don't even complain about it. Just, you need to, because like I said, it was good to me at the time, and it was time for me to kind of make a move, and it was probably one of the best moves I made. I had really ever since I just started being more involved because the show was actually very consuming because of the schedule that they kept or whatever. So it kind of kept me in that particular medium. But once I popped out and to do bigger projects, I was able to pop out and do smaller things. But once I kind of relinquished my seat there, and one of my friends actually has my position because when I would leave and go duck out and do other productions, I brought in someone and trained her actually to show somebody that was really wanted to really be a fashion style, wardrobe stylist. And once they had done some projects, but didn't have a steady gig and was really kind of struggling. And she was helping out some of the other shows in the building. So we kind of met that way. And I said, well, I get asked to do hair on a lot of other projects that I want to go work on. So I'll, kind of see how the team feels, kind of start rolling you in to help us out and just train you that way. So it kind of made me feel good because I feel like, it's like some things are just meant to be. And I said, I feel good. I'm in a position where, I can go do other things because I have this other skill as well and make even more money. And I'm also helping a friend get into this other medium because, the fashion medium, because she wants to be in. And so I basically created a job for her and created better opportunities for me. So for me, that was like a win-win thing. So, so that's kind of how that I would say that would be my nutshell in my experience of, some bias in, so to speak, in the industry. Other than that, like I said, for the most part, I should knock on wood about that.
I like how you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I like how you spoke about, if you do experience any negativity in that area, that you don't complain about it. You figure out what you can do to get around it. I've seen on shows where there's a roadblock for Black hairstylists and makeup artists wanting to get in, because when you're crewing up, you get lots of applications, but then they aren't able to work on the show because they're not in the union. So there's that roadblock there. So what would you say? Yeah. What would you say to up and coming hairstylists, makeup artists, that are Black who want to get in, but they're not in the union? It feels like it's a catch-22,
It is, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it can be, because I know, and don't let that, I would say, first of all, don't let that discourage you, because there are projects out here that are not union. There are gigs out here that are not union, and sometimes you can start working on a non-union gig, and the show ends up flipping to union, which gets you in on the entry level. But then you have to get your hours in and your days in to work up the ladder, because it's different tiers of the union as well. Like, you can't just come in and then work on anything that you want to work in. It doesn't work like that, because you shouldn't get the same privileges that some of us that's been in the union for 10, 20, 30 years if you're just coming in. So that's why they have it like that. So that's one way to kind of get in. So don't be discouraged if you're working on something non-union, because you still can count. Some of those hours can still be counted to go towards that. So and I would say, try to, network and meet people, start following artists that are on in the union, and whether they're in a union or not. I always tell people, if it's something that you want to get into, you're interested in, or you already have a business and you want to brand build, especially now with everything virtual, go online, or because everybody's usually on social media. Instead of following people that are not really doing anything on social media, follow people that that you admire what they're doing, or you like their lifestyle, because that's a level of admiring them. Well, learn how they got that lifestyle. Like I follow a lot of strong, really strong Black women. Some of them, online, some of them, and I follow them according to what my lifestyle, my interests are. I follow a lot of people, of course, industry stylists and non-industry stylists. Some of them stylists I follow are just salon. They own salons, but they're business women. Because and you could learn something, because you could learn something from the business side as well of it. So start following people that that you can get inspired by and learn from, and kind of start studying them, what they're doing. And then, maybe like some of their pictures, comment or whatever. You might get some interaction from them. You never know. Or they might, if there's somebody like I started following years ago, Karen Silva. I'm sure you heard of her. And, she's a media mogul. She's a brand builder. She's worked with, Fortune 500 companies, star athletes or whatever, so I admire her for what. I don't know her, she's not a friend of mine, but I admire what she does.
She's amazing.
Right. And I look at how she structures her business. She has a whole academy where you can take courses and classes, and even do one-on-ones with her. And sometimes when you have people like that, they sometimes, some people say, well, I don't have the money to take the course. I said, sometimes that you might see, they might look up and do like a little short introductory to something to introduce you to what they can do for you,
right?
And then, and they might have a special and say, well, instead of it being, $400, this is going to be $99 or whatever. And I was like, well, if it's your business in your future, it's worth, spending $99 for, or whatever it is or whatever. And until you can do that, like I said, just try to follow that person and, read what they do. Because there's plenty of, a lot of people have books that, you can download and read if you can't, afford to actually take an online course that they might have. And like, I took an interest in like podcasting. So I started following a lot of podcasters and, and just kind of seeing how, because that's a whole nother world. It's part of somewhat part of the industry, but that is a whole nother world. And I said, so that's kind of what I do. I follow, even political people that I admire, musicians that I admire, because I get inspired by lots of things, whether it's physical things I'm listening to, things I'm visually seeing, or sometimes I can read something or see something about someone else that might spark an idea, like, oh, you know what I can do, so you just never know what, I'm like, feed off of other people's energy. And one of my sayings is, I'm like, if you're the smartest one in your circle, you're in the wrong circle.
Right.
You're not growing. That's why I tell people, if you don't have anyone, don't try to be the smartest. I don't want to be the smartest one in my circle because I want to grow. I want to continue to learn and grow and get knowledge, so I'm not trying to be the smartest one in my circle at all. But I think that's what a lot of people, they want to be. You don't have to be the grand one all the time because, sometimes the people who have the most success are succeeding quietly.
That's true. That's true.
They don't have to talk about it because you see what they're doing. You really don't. You don't have to really talk about it. But I mean, you want to, of course, if you're selling a product and doing things like that, you want to advertise and talk about it. Because trust me, I'm on my social media talking about things all the time. But I don't feel like it's necessary for me to make, I make noise when I want to make noise. And, I feel like your achievements are your noise.
So tell us about your hair care line.
Oh, yes. It's one of my proud moments. HOB Beauty brand, which is, of course, derived from House of Broadnax. And I started kind of developing kind of my own formulas to put on my hair. My hair has mainly been natural for most of my life. Sometimes I've grown it out and wore it really long. Sometimes I've, cut it off like now and wear it short. But I've always been into healthy hair. And no matter what, whether you're wearing your natural hair, you're wearing braids, or you wearing, you caring for your hair under, your wig or your pieces or whatever. Like my thing has always been like, natural, you're taking care of your hair, no matter, what your choice is. So I just started, and I'm very big on like clean products and not putting, I'm a cancer survivor, 10-year cancer survivor.
Oh, okay.
So thank you. So I was always kind of conscious of that anyway. But after dealing with my cancer, I really just, started, doing everything like, clean as far as, I started eating mainly plant-based, and I was already kind of vegetarian. I had been vegetarian at that time anyway. So I was only eating fish. I really wasn't consuming a lot of meat anyway. So I started just so when my hair grew back, because I did do chemo, and so I lost all my hair. And so when my hair grew back, I just started, because my scalp was always so irritated during that process. I started mixing some oils and stuff to put on my hair to soothe the irritation of my scalp. And I knew that it was the medicine in my body, but I had decided to do the chemo because with all my research, because I research everything. Like I said, I'm a planner. I went in planning, took the advice from my doctors. I said, but I'm going to do my own research, get my second opinion and see which way I should go. And I said, because I don't like doing a lot of, man-made, medicines in your body. Because I grew up an athlete, so I'm very funny about like what I put in my body. And I said, but with my research, I found out that when you go, the percentage, when you go 100% holistic, your lifespan is not long at all. So I said, okay, well, I don't know about that option. So let me see what, So I said, well, I, told my doctors what my decisions was I wanted to do. And I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and do the chemo, but everything else is going to be the holistically. So that's what I did. And I feel like me making that decision is why I'm still standing here 10 years later.
That's amazing.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, wow. And so you wrote a book called Success in Beauty, The Secrets of Confidentially Following Your Dreams Effortlessly. What inspired you to write that book? And can you give us a little bit of what it's about?
Well, it's an empowerment book, and I actually wrote a chapter in that book. Success in Beauty was actually formulated from a author, #1 best-selling author and motivational speaker and talk show, radio talk show host, Charlotte Howard, out of, I believe she's in North Carolina, one of the Carolinas, but this is one, I'll just say North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually was a guest on her radio show a while back. And she was actually at that time putting together, what's it called? An anthology. Is that what it is when there's several authors? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
I believe it's an anthology.
Anthology, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was close. I knew it was something. I was like, am I saying this right? So after having an interview with her on her show, she invited me to be one of the authors of in the series, and which I was ecstatic about it. And she was like, I think you'll be a perfect person to be a part of this. So that's kind of how it introduced me to being a part of book writing, which I had been approached in the past about writing a book, and I still, want to, but with me, it depends on not if I'm going to do it, more like, is it the right time to do it? And when I was first approached, it really wasn't the right time. I didn't feel like I had the time to really put into actually writing writing something. But then when I was approached with this, and I only had to really write a chapter, and I said, oh, okay, well, I can write a chapter and that will kind of introduce me as a co-author, which can, kind of give me a stepping stone to lead into maybe my own book later on down the line. That's how I looked at that, when I'm ready. So I said, okay, this will give me, be able to get my, say my feet wet, a little dip in the water, a little bit of being an author. And, it's another creative process. Like I'm drawn to anything that's kind of creative because like I paint as a hobby. I can sketch, fairly well from my, fashion degree background. So I like to just do, artsy things. So I said, okay. So I did that. So it was basically an empowerment book. And I think it was 10 of us, I believe, women. And we were from all walks of life, different careers, different states, mainly. I think it was only like a couple of us that were actually in the same. I think it was 2 people in the Carolinas. And I think it might have been someone out here in California with me. But everybody else was other places. But and it was great. We had like, as we wrote the book, we wrote our own chapters, but then we would have groups. We would have chats on, because there still was going to be a collaboration together. But that was where Charlotte came into. She kind of was the collaborator and on the project. It was really like her project. So I think it was a #1 bestseller on Amazon. So that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I think it's either a 4 or 5 part series of empowerment books, but I'm only in 2 of them.
Okay. I
was only a part of 2 of the last 2, I believe. And so that's kind of how that came about. Basically, just I was an interview, just like I'm, sitting here talking to you, and something more came out of, the conversation of just telling my story. That's why I tell people, tell your story.
Right.
Your story could help someone else. It could inspire someone else. It could make someone else dream bigger, So I just try to tell my story. I'm like, I was a young mother, I was a young single mom with 2 children. I said, so if I can become a Emmy award winning, stylist, why couldn't you?
And that's true. Now, being a stylist, and you have to deal with styling people for different shows and things like that. What is your personal style?
My personal style, wow, it's really very kind of clean and minimal. I would say classic, minimal, but with a little edge. I always have to have a little, I like very classic, but you got to have it got to have that little street edge to it. Got to have a little something. Like if I got on a nice flowy dress or something like that, on a cool night, I'm probably going to have a little motorcycle, a little crop motorcycle with jacket on with it, to kind of give it a little edge.
Do you have a favorite style decade?
Wow. I like lots of them, but I would say one of my favorites is probably like the 60s,
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
which was very kind of like mod. It was very, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things about the classic kind of mod that I liked. There, the 70s was a little bit more bohemian,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very current. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I have my love for, I would say probably the 50s and 60s are probably my two favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's things that I like about each decade, with my
Mm-hmm.
favorite being probably the 50s and 60s. But I have a love for just wanting to know what's current,
Mm-hmm.
what's new before anybody else know what's new. Or even I tell people, start a trend. A trend is, and I don't even like to say, I don't know what it is about the word trend, because I feel like trend is in today, out tomorrow, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I don't. I'm not that girl. I'm more like classic. I like building, but I tell people, you can play around with the trends, but
Mm-hmm.
build your wardrobe. Think about your top 10, 15, classic investment pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And then, kind of add the trendy stuff, because the trendy just is in this season, out this season. I'm more into paying a little bit more for quality things
Mm-hmm.
that's classic, that I can pull out of my closet. I have stuff that I'm still wearing that I've had the whole 20 years I've been out here, and it's still current. It's still in fashion. You would think that I just purchased it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's classic. So it doesn't go out of style. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to spend most of that. You want to spend the more money on your investment pieces that can, stand the test of time, like a nice, handbag, a really good tailored suit,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of good, black dresses, some a trench coat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the East Coast, a nice structured winter coat that can
Mm-hmm.
go over a nice, suit, or a nice dress, or even, a gown if you have to do a red carpet or something. You don't want to do a fur,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's faux.
Yeah, okay. So do you have a favorite style icon?
Ooh, I have several. I have, of course, the amazing, beautiful Iman.
Mm.
As far as style and model icon, um, couple of my favorite designers are like Kevin Hall. I
Mm.
love, one of my, go way back, is um, Coco Chanel Gabrielle, just for her cleanness, and and I like, because I know, like, a lot of times I can just look at clothes and I'll know right off like what designer that is.
Mm-hmm.
Because they, designer, they have like a certain style, like different signature things that they do for their brand,
Mm-hmm.
and think that their brand might be known for. And like, Roberto Cavalli, he's known, and like Versace, like they were known for their very, vibrant colors, and, really prints and things like that, where, like, Chanel with um, Miss Gabrielle, and then later, for years, Karl Lagerfeld, up until
Mm-hmm.
recently. She was known for her, her famous tweed suits, and of course her perfume lines and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it was a certain structure. She was known for black and white,
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. So I have a lot of different designers that I admire for different things, like for gowns and things like that. I like Carolina Herrera, Oscar de la Renta. I tend to go towards a lot of maybe the more mature designers that's been around in the game for a little while, and
Mm-hmm.
then, but I like my younger ones too. And like I said, it all depends on who I'm dressing too. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm styling somebody, because you're styling the person, or if I'm working with someone creating, to help them, create their image, you're going to go off of what their personality is and what makes them comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, what advice would you give to someone who wants to do what you do? They want to be a hairstylist or a costume designer. What overall advice would you give them?
Well, if they want to be a hairstylist and they're not one yet, they have to go get a cosmetology license, which means you have to go to school for a year or two, depending on what your schedule is. Mm-hmm. So, because you cannot be a professional in a salon or on television or film sets without a license. Mm-hmm. So you definitely need that. Now, if you already have your license, then, and say you're in a salon, but you want to start doing some a television and film or some production things, or I say, start where you can start. First, you should, try to get a platform where people can see your work. If you don't have a website, you can't do a website right now, take one of your social medias and make that your portfolio, so to speak. Because so if somebody wants to see some of your work, you have somewhere to go. You can say, well, I'm working on my website, but if you go to my IG, there's some really creative pictures of some work I did there or whatever. That's perfectly acceptable nowadays, Mm-hmm. But, because one of the things, if I'm working with someone and for the first time, whether they were referred to me or not, especially if they're like assisting or something like that, and they're new and I'm trying to help them kind of get in or build them up or whatever, the first thing I'm going to ask you is for your social media, because because I don't know you, mm-hmm. but your social media is going to tell me a little bit about you by what you have on your social media. It's going to kind of tell me where, kind of where you at, where your mind, because I feel like if you want to be into business and you want to be on a certain platform, mm-hmm. and then you need to make where you're at now, kind of, business friendly, so to speak. You can still keep, because I still keep my social media platforms fun and light, mm-hmm. or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if you go to my social medias, you'll see that they're all kind of about business, something creative, something that I'm doing, mm-hmm. Try to keep more. This is just my advice, because I know that people, even employers, go to your social media now. Mm-hmm. So one of my things is like, try to keep some of your more personable stuff personal. Everybody don't need to know everything about you on social media. A lot of people don't even want to know everything about you. So I would start there, because I say, because a lot of times, right now I know people might not have money to do a website or, mm-hmm. Do different things or what, but you can do, like I said, it's the small things that count, that right. lead up, small successes that lead up. So I would say that was the first thing, because you don't know anybody in an industry that you want to get in, so, make your platform inviting to someone to say, oh, this artist, this makeup artist is interesting. Oh, because I follow a lot of makeup artists that I know that are not in the industry, mm-hmm. but they they doing the dang thing. They doing it however they can do it, whether it's online or and that's what their Instagrams and stuff is about. Mm-hmm. That's how I know what they're doing. That, they, not that they're not having fun and, hanging out and doing stuff with their friends. They just don't put that on social media. Mm-hmm. I do that too, but it's just not really on my social media. No, my followers don't want to necessarily see that. And maybe if I am at like a Beyonce concert or something, they might get into mm-hmm. that, if I got, but you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I would say start there, and then try to, get on smaller projects, go online and look and see if, and I know right now it's a little different because we're talking in a pandemic time, and even production as a whole is going to be very different than what it's been. We know it to have, be up until 2020. Mm-hmm. So let's just put that out there. And, and because it's not a lot of stuff filming even right now. Mm-hmm. And it's the smaller things or whatever. So I would just say right now, a lot of people have been home for these 4 or 5 months, or at least, 2 to 3 months out of that stretch or whatever. And I'm like, this is where people should have been sitting saying, okay, what do I need to, what can I do that can either, if not, or generate me some income, mm-hmm. or generate me some opportunities. Right. That's how I kind of look at this time. Because, mm-hmm. Everything I do is physical. Mm-hmm. And I said, I've spent more time in my house probably in the last year than I have in almost the 10 years I've owned it, because, television and film, we work in 10, 14 mm-hmm. hour days.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I said, well, what can I do to still kind of push my brand and I said, I'm not filming, but I can focus. I'm not filming, so I'm not really doing that part of my brand. But what other aspect of the brand can I be working on? So I was originally going to do a HOB beauty brand launch during LA Fashion Week. That was when my launch was scheduled, but of course that all got shut down from the pandemic. So, so the brand was basically launched right at the beginning of the pandemic online, because that's the only way I had to do it, because we couldn't go anywhere. So that's pretty much what I've been working on. The bulk of the time is just pushing the brand, keeping the brand presence online, getting the product out there, because I mean, everything we do now is pretty much virtual. Right. So I just been pushing that, and the product will be, HOB Beauty will be available soon in the H&E Goods Company store here in Los Angeles, over towards Beverly Hills, Cedars-Sinai area. And so it's a great thing to know that my product is going to be in that store. And so, like I said, I've just been, I feel like I tell people just to sit back and plan out what it is that you want to do. Write things down. One of the things that has helped me, that I even talk about in Success to Beauty, is that I keep journals. I write everything down, because I have so much creative stuff going on. You sometimes don't remember one thing next to the next, or I might start on something, but then I have to jump over here and read a couple of scripts, but then I might have to come back to something creative over here. Well, I need to take bullet notes to kind of know where I left off or what else I have to do, because my brain has been consumed with a whole other project with characters over here, but now I have to kind of turn it off and turn something else on over here. So planning and note taking and being organized has always been very important, and a really major part of how I function, because I feel like if I'm organized and functioning smoothly, then that trickles down to every aspect of my life. And that's kind of how I feel. Like I'm a busy person, and I like being busy, but my life as a whole is very peaceful, very organized, very just kind of peaceful. And that's something to say. It keeps your mind calm, because one of my brand things, my brand is basically about beauty, fashion, art, and culture, and just self-care, and self-care, and having a learning how to live a comfortable, healthy lifestyle. Now if that catapults into being a rich, healthy lifestyle, then so be it. But but a lot of it is, how we react to things, how we plan things. And I would just say, try to network, get a portfolio or something going where people can see your work. Try to seek out smaller projects when things start picking back up, because I know it's not much going on, but like do a couple photo shoots. Sometimes I tell people, if you don't have a portfolio, or you don't have like really creative, like, editorial-ish, photos, then seek out a photographer online like Craigslist and do a photo shoot. I said, a lot of times you can find a photo shoot like that. You're not getting paid, but you're getting the photos. Everybody's doing it pro bono, because they're doing it for whatever they need the photos for, whether it's the model, whether it's a photographer, because even if you're established, I do that every so often. And we just do creative photo shoots, because you have to update your portfolios, your websites, you want fresh content. You have to constantly, make fresh content for, whatever it is that you're doing or selling, or because most people, if they're, they want to go into some type of business, at some point they're probably selling something. They're selling a object or their service of some type. So I would say, like, just kind of start there. And then as you get your little projects, you'll meet different people. I met, how when I first moved out here, I did get the one project that was just like I think it was a 10 months project. But then after that, I didn't have anything that was like concrete. So in between time, but I was still, going back and forth, every other month or so. keeping my clients back in Ohio happy. But what I decided to do was I said, well, I'm going to go work in a salon on the days that if I'm not filming somewhere, because like for a few years, I didn't have a regular show or rather a regular production, but I was working pretty steadily. But, I might be on production for 2 days here. I might be at Fox somewhere on another production for 2 days here. I didn't have a permanent, like regular show, but I was working, bopping around. But on my days off, I decided to fill in the gap. I said, I'm going to rent a booth at a salon. That way I can, that can generate money. I can work my own hours and do my own thing. I can still be, an entrepreneur or whatever. And I found someone out here that just charged me for the days I was working, because I didn't want to be doing booth rent if I'm only going to be there like, once a week or, once or twice a week here and there. So I did that. And that's how I actually met the executive producer who hired me for Tyra. She became my salon client. And I didn't know she was a producer at the time she became my client. I didn't know she was a producer. We were at I started going to networking and going to different functions that were centered around the entertainment industry. So I could meet people. You have to network to meet people. Now that's why I tell people, follow people online, social media that you admire, that you like, because you can't go out physically and meet them now. So now you have to just reach out on their social media.
Right.
I said, I met her at a function and I gave her my business card, and she called me to get her hair done. And we just, she came in as my client. We just got to talking, and we just kind of became like kind of friendly, friendly, client stylist relationship. But I had probably did her hair for, a few months before she even really talked about what she did or whatever, which was fine with me because she was just a great person. And then she just said, well, I'm a producer and I'm starting this new project, and I would love to offer to see if you're interested in coming on as the, one of the key hairstylists or whatever. Of course, because it was me and Kaya Wright. She was Tyra's personal stylist. And then I was the head stylist that did like all the guests that came on the show. And I like talk shows. I had done a couple of talk shows. And the thing I liked about talk shows is that I got to work with a lot of different people, because there was different people every day on all the segments. It wasn't like the same people every day. So I like that aspect of it. And that's how I ended up with getting the position on the Tyra show. She was already my client, but I didn't know. I didn't seek her out, because even when I gave her my business card, I didn't even know she was a producer. We were just at the same function, and we ended up like having conversation in a group. And I just kind of gave the whole group, my business card, and she called me. So like I said, so you have to sometimes put yourself in a position where you can meet the right people that can possibly give you, some a couple steps to get to where you're going. But you have sometimes you have to create. Don't wait for the opportunity, create the opportunity. Right. I feel like I always try to create my own opportunities. And then if an opportunity is presented to me, I try to seize it right then, because opportunities, it might be there today. It may not be there tomorrow. So you just have to make the most of what it is, of your situation and like I said, take baby steps. But now I would say one of the major things for everybody, and this really doesn't matter what kind of field you're in, whatever it is you're doing, you're going to have to be a little virtual, because even when we get back to, whatever the new normal is, it's not going to be the same, I don't think, for a while. So, and because I think a lot of businesses, not necessarily television and film, because it's a little harder to do, but I think a lot of businesses will just kind of go more toward the virtual thing, because, so you just never know. But I just think that it's actually made me, because, and I'm pretty comfortable with a computer. I wouldn't say I'm tech savvy, but I'm becoming tech savvy, because I said during these 5 months, I said, I'm the CEO, the creative director, the publicist, the content creator, the photographer, even though I am going to get a photographer to do this photo shoot that I want to do. But it's like everything I'm doing, I'm doing myself. But like I said, I had these months off from filming. So I'm going to make the most of these months that I have off, because hopefully, I was hoping to be back to work by now, but I do have a film scheduled, a short film that I'm doing in September. That I'll be filming in September. So,
okay, yeah, that's what I was going to say next. Is what is on the horizon for Theresa Broadnax?
Well, one of the things is, like I said, the one of the short films that I'm working on, which is Dreams from the Edge. Is that what let me not misquote? Dreams from the Edge. Yes, written by Erica Nicole Malone. So I'm working on that in September.
I know
and
Erica.
You know Erica? Yes. Okay. See, you just never know what comes out of a conversation. So I'm working on a project with Miss Erica. So I'm excited, and I've styled her before on, for different things that she was doing, and we have there's another producer that we have collaborated with or whatever. So I love Erica. She's awesome. So I'm working on that with her, and I'm just, expanding, pushing more of HOB beauty brand, and hoping to add, I was going to add another, because it's a two products with the hair care line. I was planning on adding another product in the latter part of 2020, but I decided to push it back until 2021 just because of what the circumstances are, and just keeping myself, at a good financial, pace, because the beauty product it's been moving pretty steadily. I'm happy with, of course things can always be better, but I think under the circumstances during the pandemic, I've, kind of went through a lot of the inventory that I had, and then with me placing it in this store, and I'm in talks for this other beauty supply. So I'm happy to where I've got it pushed to. And like I mentioned before, I'm working on a podcast for the HOB brand.
Okay.
So I'm going to be coming, introduced into your community. So I'm very happy I was able to meet you.
Yes.
I'm glad that Raymond kind of hooked that up.
Yes.
And
shout out to Raymond. Raymond.
Yes.
let's get his whole name, Raymond Stewart Bryant.
Yes, because you will get a call about that,
right?
So I'm kind of learning the ropes on that, and just learning how to really just do everything, which I'm sure you do all your stuff too. And I felt a little overwhelmed at first, I think, because I had so much stuff going on. But then once I kind of took a breath, and then my mentor, Lena, when she was like, she does the Gold Standard podcast. I don't know if you know her. And
I listened to that one.
Yeah, that's her niche. Her thing is she teaches you how, to basically, run your own, podcast show, and and she does it in a very kind of probably the most simplified way of doing it yourself. Of having to do everything yourself. And that's what I told her I needed. Not because I didn't think I was, could comprehend what was going on. It's just because I got so much other thing, facets to my brand. I need things to be simple, because I'm only going to have so much time to work on it, So that's been a very inspiring and encouraging. I wouldn't say scary, because I'm kind of fearless, but it's something new, a new arena. But I used to have a blog, but blogging is more about writing, which kind of to me takes a little bit more time, because you got to sit out, So I thought, so somebody said, no, we think you'll be, a podcast would probably be more your medium, because it's just talking, and you're a good, talker, good speaker. We think that people would like to hear your story, and if you're willing to tell them, and I just kind of laughed. But they said that because I'm very private when it comes to my personal life. I'll talk about anything that has to do with, the industry and my career.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, I'm pretty quiet about it for the most part. But I said, I'm willing to open up to some, facets of my personal life, but only to a certain extent, even on that part. Because I think in this business, you got to, keep that balance and you got to have some separation from it.
Exactly.
And so I said, okay, instead of me doing the right. So that appealed to me, talking to people, because I don't even like to look at it like an interview. I'm just chatting with people. So it's going to be HOB Brand, the podcast. Okay. It's a platform where where we promote beauty, fashion, art, and culture to grow, glow, and empower.
Ooh, I love that.
No, thank you.
I'll be listening because I'm a podcast junkie. So
I will let you know. I'll be hopefully launching in a couple of months. Like I said, I'm kind of learning the ropes, and I'm kind of on the editing part now, and getting in. Laying down the track for my, like intro and outro, kind of getting the feel of like my tone of my voice, which is very important to me because I have naturally kind of a heavy voice anyway. And so it's always, I'm like, okay, that way I can kind of hear how I sound and because, it's all about, having the right tone and things flowing very fluently. And I think by me being in the business, I can't just put anything out there. I gotta, I gotta be happy with what I put out there. So I'm just kind of been taking my time with it and kind of learning the ropes and following a lot of other podcasters and kind of getting into that community of people that, I like and admire and listen to. And sometimes I'll just jump over and listen to something that, probably wouldn't necessarily take my interest, but I'm just getting a different perspective of, of different podcasters and what's working for them.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, tell everyone where they can find you online on your website and social media.
Okay. You can find me. I'm really an IG Instagram person, and I have actually 3 handles on there. I'm House of Broadnax, which is more of my personal handle, and then I have HOB Brand, the podcast, and then HOB Beauty Brand, and I also have a Facebook page. I'm trying to be a little better and be a little bit more active on Facebook, but my strong one is really Instagram, and I do have a Twitter account, which is also everything pretty much is House of Broadnax or HOB Brand. But my jam is really Instagram, and hopefully coming up soon it'll be my podcast and Instagram. So anybody, if you want, my website is www.houseofbroadnax.com, and you can reach out there and leave a comment or message. Check out the store, which I'll be updating some things with more about how to use the product. Some more video, with hairstyle demonstrations. That's another thing I have been working on, just updating with, fresh videos to talk about the product, the hair product. And for all of my House of Broadnax leather good community out there, because I've had a couple people ask me about several years back, I did a leather handbag collection, which originally started out just doing pouches when I was off from work with my cancer, trying to stay creative because I had to take like over a year off from work and I couldn't physically do anything, but I still wanted to be creative. So I started kind of sketching for some reason, like handbags. I like jewelry, but I'm not a real big jewelry person personally. For me, I usually wear like a nice statement watch, and maybe some bracelets, but I'm not a big necklace or earring person, but I like a good handbag. So I started designing leather handbags. And then eventually I think in 2015, I did a collection and presented during LA Fashion Week, and the bags did really well. And then I kind of got busy with work and was really working a lot and really couldn't tend to them, so I had put them on hold but then I plan on going back to them and rebooting the line again in 2021. So House of Broadnax Leather Goods will be back.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to start back out with my signature pouch, because that's what was my number one seller, was the signature pouch. So we will, and that again I was going to do a reboot and show and launch it during this year, but I decided to push it back just because, like I said, and I feel like people's money is not right for a lot of people right now, and they just need. So I said, I'm just going to stick with the beauty product, and then I'll redo the launch the reboot, and I might decide to do a little limited collection of the pouches for the holiday, because I feel like by December people might. Because the pouch is not, it's not real expensive anyway. So I said I might do something like that, and just kind of, like I said, I'm just kind of pacing myself, just given the economy and things to get back to normal. Because I know people, most of Americans, they're barely trying to, survive and hang on. So I'm trying not to, try to be pushing too much right now in people's faces about purchasing, because I know people are just really just trying to hold on to their livelihood right now.
Right. Yeah, well, you do so many amazing things. I love it. It's all in the creative realm, and I'm the same way too. I do all sorts of different creative things. So that is really great. And I think the listeners will really get a lot out of this, because there's people who want to get in this business and they don't know how. And I think they'll get a lot out of this. So I thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad we met. Yes. And we will speak again, of course, because like I said, I'm entering your world. So I might be tapping you and say, hey, girl, I need some advice.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all.
I might be like, can you be a guest on my show? Tell people about the writers,
Absolutely. Just let me know.
I would love that. Yeah, because I already said, I already told Erica I'm gonna have her on. I have some world renowned artists who have already agreed to come on. So so I'm excited. I'm excited. Should be fun. And
oh wow. Well, blessings on that.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to tune in to the WordyGirl Entertainment Podcast. Don't forget to check out my blog at www.wordygirlent.com. That's WordyGirlent.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at WordyGirlEnt, and on Facebook at www.facebook.com/WordyGirlEnt. And always remember, it all begins with a single word. So what are you waiting for? Go write.